Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Safa Isa, College of Humanities Linguistic Department, Prince Sultan University. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you with this wonderful morning. And on behalf of the Applied Linguistic Research Lab, I'd like to welcome all of you on our first international symposium on applied linguistics research. Please join me before introducing our wonderful speaker. I'd like just to give some housekeeping instructions. If you don't mind, make sure that you keep your camera off during the presentation, your mics off as well, muted. In case you have any questions, type your questions on the Q&A area. Please, because all the questions on the chat box, we'll never look at them. We'll have time, the last 10 minutes, to discuss your questions once they are on the Q&A area. You can follow us on hashtag PSU ALR 2020. It's already there on the chat, so you can follow us. Now, please join me and welcome Dr. Ines Al-Musallam, King Saud University, Saudi Arabia. Her presentation is non-verbal offers in women's talk by Saudi Arabic and British English speakers, politeness perspective. Dr. Ines, the stage is you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this wonderful introduction. Today I'll talk about my paper which is entitled Nonverbal Offers in Women's Talk by Saudi Arabic and British English Speakers from a Politeness Perspective. The purpose of my study was to explore how nonverbal offers can influence the management of relational work in ordinary conversation within Saudi and British female friendship groups. It actually compares the two cultures by examining interactions, perceptions, and practices. What do we mean by a relational work? It is a comprehensive view of politeness that was proposed by Locker and Watts in 2005, who took a descriptive approach. The approach defines or sees politeness as a process of judgments about linguistic behaviors that emerge through discourse production rather than something that resides in one utterance. The following figure maps the total spectrum of the relational work. Now, the most important thing is what we see here in column 2, which shows us the politic behavior, which is the behavior that's perceived to be appropriate and neither polite nor impolite. It is the expected behavior. On the other hand, marked behavior can be noticed in two ways, whether negative as impolite and inappropriate, or over polite and inappropriate, or could be marked positively and seen as polite and appropriate. So we can see here, this is the portion that deals with politeness in the relational work. The motivation of my study, when I was collecting data from my PhD research on offering behavior, I noticed that verbal offers may constitute an essential part of the total offering behavior in both Saudi and British female friendship groups. This made me going through the literature to find out more about nonverbal politeness. Unfortunately, I found that most theoretical claims and research in the field have focused only on linguistic behavior and ignored how nonverbal behavior influences politeness evaluations. We can see that nonverbal politeness or nonverbal behaviors have either neglected or downplayed in explaining verbal interactions in pragmatic and politeness research. For example, the only few studies that deals with nonverbal politeness have provided some insights on the role of prosody or gesture in the evaluations of speakers' utterances. Despite the fact that interactants can carry out nonverbal acts which can speak just as loud as words, and several researchers, for example, Brown and Levinson and Hall, have acknowledged that politeness is not limited to verbal language. So the study attempts to fill this important gap in previous research by investigating nonverbal acts, particularly offers, as independent acts that play an important role in the construction of spoken discourse rather than just prosthetic features accompanying speech. The study employed a combination of methods to collect data, including audio recorded naturally occurring conversations, scaled response questionnaires, and interviews. The natural conversations allowed me to analyze nonverbal offers a real context, and the interviews and scaled response questionnaires allowed me to investigate and elicit participants' attitudes and evaluations. Six groups of female friends participated in this study involving 20 participants in total. 10 Saudi Arabic native speakers, and the other 10 were British English female native speakers. Their ages ranged from 22 to 39. The recordings were carried out over a dinner meal in a hostess guest setting with the 3 to 4 participants. I attended the recording myself, which enabled me to take notes of nonverbal behavior. In total, 16 hours of recorded conversations over dinner were gathered. The analysis. The figure shows you here, we can see that the nonverbal offers were a significant part of the Saudi data, as it makes up around 50% of it makes about a half of all offers by the 10 Saudi participants, whereas nonverbal offers were as not popular for the British participants, as they constituted only around a quarter of all identified offers. Looking more deeply or thoroughly at the nonverbal offers, I found that around 17.8 of the nonverbal offers led to complex negotiation in the Saudi corpus, whereas none led to intricate negotiation in the BE groups. Looking at the response type of these nonverbal offers, I can see that the majority of the offers were accepted in both sets of data, and 7.5 were refused in the Saudi data, whereas none were refused in the British data. Here in column 3, we can see that 42.9% of the nonverbal offers had no response in the British English data. By no response, I mean that the addressee did not respond to immediately to the offer, whether verbally or non-verbally. Whereas this was the case in only about 12% of the Saudi data. So it's clear that the British women are more careful about tending offers non-verbally and usually employ them in situations in which refusal or negotiation is not considered a likely option. Now I will provide a descriptive analysis of a representative sample of nonverbal offers in both sets of data, drawing on the relational work framework. The first extract here is taken from an interaction between 3 friends, the hostess, Yusra, and her guests, Lama and Arwa. We can see here that while Lama was talking, Yusra served them a dip in line 2. There is an arrow to show you where is the nonverbal offer here. By placing the dips on the tea table close to the woman, this offer was not followed by an immediate response. The woman's attention was directed to Lama's talk. This is obvious as Yusra chose to make the offer nonverbally and the addressee did not react to the offer. The absence of the immediate response was a sign of implicit agreement as the ladies started eating from the dip few minutes later, around 5 minutes or more or less. The second extract here took place between the same participants, Yusra and her guests. While Inas was talking, Yusra noticed that Arwa's cup was empty. She picked up the cup to pour more coffee for her in line 1. She did not, we can notice that she did not ask Arwa whether she wanted another cup or not. Yusuf's behavior shows that she was attentive to the needs of her guests and at the same time giving attention to the ongoing talk where Ines was talking. This offer was accepted non-verbally by Arwa as she took her cup back without any verbalized attempt to, to state her acceptance or express her appreciation, as we can see here in line 3. On the other hand, the following extract shows us the same offer, but that was refused. While Yusra was talking, we can see that the offerer is the one who was talking. She noticed that her guest, Arwa's cup, was empty. She picked up the cup to pour more tea for Arwa in line 2 while she was still talking. We can see here that in line 3, sorry, Arwa refused the offer by first saying she had enough tea and then thanking Yusra. We can see here that the refusal was expressed verbally, but the acceptance was nonverbal. In all of the previous extracts, it was clear that it would be inappropriate to stop the talk to display hospitality. Nonverbal offering helps them in managing the friendly and talkative atmosphere among the friends. If we imagine that these nonverbal offers did not occur and the hosting duties were ignored, their absence would affect the interactions in a negative way. This evidence provides that nonverbal offers are an essential part of the expected politic offering behavior within the friendship groups. Although the discussed three offers generated different responses, they were judged similarly during the interviews as polite and appropriate by Yusfa and Lema, and very polite and appropriate by Arba. Some of their comments were Lema stated she did not want to interrupt us while we were talking. Yusfa stated, I don't have to wait for an acceptance or a request to serve my guests. If she did not want, she could refuse. It's polite to keep on serving coffee or tea until my guest asks me to stop. The following extract shows how a nonverbal offer developed into a complex negotiation. Fatin is having here some friends over for dinner, including Wad and Sally. While Fatin was talking, she took the thermos from the table next to Sally and Wad to pour some coffee for them in line 1. Immediately, Sally asked her to sit down, implying that they would serve themselves. This acted as a refusal to Fatin's offer. However, the refusal was partial. Sally refused being served as a formal guest, yet she did not refuse to have more coffee and so asked Fatin to place the coffee thermos next to them so they could serve themselves as much as they wanted. This is in line 3. This offer was approved also by the other guests, Wa'ad, as she said, yes, right. Although Fatin she did not say or respond to their reactions, both women adds reasoning to their reaction and their offering of help. As Sally says in line 4, because it's so far away and sit down so we keep on pouring. And Wad also add another reasoning on line 5. We can see here that Fatin accepted their offer as she and a refusal of her offer to serve them, and she did what they asked her to do by placing the thermos next to them in line 7, and she welcomed them by invoking God, saying, "May God welcome you," in line 7. Her behavior brought the discussion of the nonverbal offer to a close. During the interviews, Fatin and Wad evaluated the offer as polite and appropriate, and Sally as very polite and appropriate. Fatin said, it's illogical to waste our time in saying offering expressions every time we offer our guests something. Socializing is more important. Now I'll provide you with some samples from the British data. The first extract here shows how a nonverbal offer was not followed by an immediate response. It was taken from an interaction between three friends, the hostess, Elsa, and her guests, Janet and Helen. While Janet was talking about the theme park she had visited, here from lines 1 to 7, Elsa placed chips on the dining table and sat down, line 8. This was seen as an offer to have uh, chips. There was not any reaction to the offer, either verbal or nonverbal. The women continued their talk about the theme park. Their main attention was directed to the talk, and this suggests that the offer should be considered expected politic behavior. In the interviews, the offer was evaluated as polite and appropriate by Elsa, and neither polite and nor appropriate, impolite and appropriate by Helen. However, Elsa stated that it would be better if she had expressed the offer verbally, saying, I could have had more interaction with them and spoken more about it. I just placed the chips on the table near them rather than specifically say something while I was doing that. The following extract took place between the hostess Susan and Rachel. I guess Susan had placed hummus and other dips on the table earlier. While Flora was talking, as we can see here from lines 1 to 6. Rachel wanted to have some hummus on line 7. So she reached out to get some. When Susan noticed this, she moved the plate of hummus closer to Rachel, line 8, and was seen as a nonverbal offer. This nonverbal offer was appreciated and accepted by Rachel. And line 9, as she said thanks and took some hummus. The offer exchange was brought to an end. During the interviews, Flora and Susan considered the offer as polite and appropriate, saying that Rachel reached for the hummus, so it's polite to notice that and then pass the hummus to her. So it is here seen that Susan was attentive to her guest's need, whereas Rachel evaluated the offer as neither polite nor impolite and appropriate. It seems that Rachel downgraded the offer to show that she did not need Susan's help. It seems she did not consider it a requirement of good hospitality. The last extract here includes a unique case of nonverbal offering. The offers were socially oriented, by which I mean that the aim was to engage all the participants in the talk rather than providing a service or an item. The friends, Anne, Emily, and Ruby were discussing Yara's love for Cat. Anne told the others that her friend had texted her an image of an outfit, suggesting that she bought it. Yet, when she actually saw the outfit, she indicated that Yara should be the one to get it, as it's Cat's related. This happens from line 1 to 13. The ladies then wondered and engaged in the discussion of the outfit. Okay, when the image was uploaded, Anne gave the phone to Yara to look at the picture, line 14. Yara then offered to show Emily the outfit by handing Anne's phone to her in line 16. We can see that Emily did not show any reaction to the offer. She simply took the phone and immediately commented on the outfit. Similarly, Emily offered Ruby the chance to see the outfit by handing Anne's phone to her in line 19. The interactants' reaction proved that the offers were part of expected politic behavior in order to ensure that everybody was involved in the conversation. Yet, if we imagine Yara not showing Emily and Emily not showing Ruby the outfit, such behavior would have been considered inappropriate and rude, as it might have demonstrated that the others were excluded. When interviewed, the three participants evaluated both offers as polite and appropriate, whereas one of them evaluated them as neither polite and nor impolite and appropriate. One stated, it demonstrates that you want them to be involved in the conversation so they can see what you've been looking at so they don't feel excluded. The key findings. The analysis shows some similarities and differences between the Saudi and British female friends in their nonverbal offer behavior. The similarities include that nonverbal offers play a significant role in the development of relational work and evaluations of politeness, and their absence may affect the interactions negatively. Second, the motivation for making nonverbal offers was the same among both the Saudi and British female friends, which were displays of attentiveness, strategic actions to avoid interrupting the flow of talk. So the main attention was directed to the talkative atmosphere among the friends, and finally maintaining appropriate association rights and friendly rapport. On the other hand, the differences were that nonverbal offers were a more significant part of the offering behavior of the Saudi Arabic speakers than that of their British English counterpart. This is consistent with the studies
Thank you,
that
Dr.
find
Ines.
directness
Sorry
to
for
be expected
interrupting you.
behavior among Saudi speakers more than
Dr.
British
Ines,
ones.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. We're run
I'm
out of
concluding.
time.
I'm
Yeah.
concluding. I'm
Okay,
concluding.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Second, during the interviews, the Saudi Arabic speakers evaluated the nonverbal offers more positively than their British English counterparts. Finally, nonverbal offers can lead to elaborate negotiations in the Saudi Arabic groups, altering the focus of the group onto the topic of offering. However, this was not the case in the British English corpus. None of the nonverbal offers led to an intricate negotiation or refusal among the BE interactants. In conclusion, although the motivation for nonverbal offers was the same in both sets of data, the speakers' attitudes and perceptions vary across the two cultures, which lead to higher frequency of such behavior in the Saudi Arabic corpus. This finding has implications for cross-cultural research, which often focuses only on nonverbal content, and that cross-cultural research must be expanded to consider both types of interactions. Thank you all for listening, and any questions and comments are welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ines, for this fruitful presentation. Now, we have about 8 minutes for getting back to your questions. We have received two questions written for Dr. Ines. The first one, we got it from Dr. Khalid Taguddin. The question is, why did you use audio recordings to collect non-verbal data? Dr. Ines?
Yeah, due to the conservative nature of the Saudi society, it would be difficult to find participants who will be agreed to be video recorded during their informal gathering with friends. So this is the reason actually. So I used observation and taking notes of nonverbal behavior.
Thank you, Dr. Ines. Another question from Dr. Khalid again. How can we draw a line between nonverbal politeness and etiquette?
Nonverbal politeness refers to any attempt to manage the interaction in an expected and in a polite way. Etiquette could be sometimes seen as over politeness, as it may draw formal lines between the interactants, and sometimes could be part of politeness. It depends on the situation itself. So drawing a line will be based on the interactants, evaluations, and reactions to a certain behavior. And this is what the descriptive approach says, that we can't say that this is politeness all the time, or this is etiquette all of the time, or this is impolite all of the time. The evaluations of a certain behavior will depend on the context, the relationship among the participants, and the norms of their conversations and socializing. I hope I answered this question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ines. Do we still have any question? Please, participants, if you still have any question, you can type it in the Q&A area, please. We still have 1 minute with Dr. Ines. Any more questions? Okay, by that, we'd like to thank Dr. Ines so much for this wonderful presentation. Thank you all. And now, in a minute, we will join the second presentation for room 4 today. Thank you so much.
And thank you all.
Ines, we received another question. Would you mind? We still have 1 minute.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's
Yeah.
from Dr. Arwa. Are the evaluations made by the participants?
Yes, yes. I interviewed them and I gave them skilled response questionnaires to evaluate their offers and the behaviors of their interactants.
Okay, thank you again. Thank you, Dr. Ines. Salam alaikum.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alaikum salam.
Now it's me back again, Safa Isa with you, and would like to welcome you again with this second presentation in room 4 on behalf of the Applied Linguistic Research Lab. I'd like to welcome all of you in today's wonderful event, which is our first symposium, international symposium. And in fact, it's a wonderful day to have all of you with us today. And our second presentation, we'll start it in just now, but I need to give some instruction regarding the housekeeping. Please keep your camera off, your mics mute. In case you have any questions, you are kindly requested to type your questions on the Q&A area, because we'll handle them the last 10 minutes of this presentation. Follow us on the hashtag PSUALR2020. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Shifa Al-Bakhit, Imam Muhammad Ibn Saud Islamic University, Saudi Arabia. Her presentation title is Identity Construction by the Use of Impoliteness, a critical discourse analysis of trans-political incorrectness in the preliminary debates 2015-2016. Thank you, Dr. Shifa. All of you, please join me and welcome Dr. Shifa. The mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And I've shared my screen. Can you see it clearly?
Yes.
Okay, so shall I start? Okay, so my paper is about identity construction by the use of impoliteness. I've applied a critical discourse analysis on Trump's political incorrectness, which is sort of impoliteness, and on the preliminary debates in 2015 and 2016. So obviously the purpose behind this study, the inspiration was basically me trying to make sense of the fact that the rudest candidate won and became the president of the United States of America. Of course, today is very befitting because just yesterday he lost the second term. So let's get going and we'll see how, what was it? What identities did he create in the minds of the American voters that led him to be the president in 2016? So the outline of the presentation is we're just going to go over the frameworks and the data, and then we'll cover the identities that his use of impoliteness, of political incorrectness has created in the minds of the voters, how they perceived him to be. So the frameworks used, mainly the framework that underpins the whole study is obviously Fairclough's 1992 for discourse analysis. And basically it says that for any discourse, there are three levels of there are three levels of discourse. There's the initial one, the micro one, which is the level of text, which corresponds to the impolite utterances that Trump used, and then there's the medium through which these utterances are going to be produce, distribute, and put into public consumption, discursive practice. And for that, for this study, they are the political debates, the preliminary debates, where the text, where the utterances took place. And then eventually, after he says what he says during those debates, there's going to be a social practice, which is the final level of discourse analysis. Basically, uh, what were the effects of his utterances on the society that those utterances were directed to? So for that, I've used Define ATL's 2006 framework on identity, and we'll go over it in a minute, to govern the analysis of, trying to see what identities were constructed, developed, because he was impolite. Culpeper's framework, 2011, basically it is very, it has so many details, but basically the overview, which he adopted from Helen Spencer Otey's 2008, is that there are two subjects of attack. Whenever somebody is insulting anybody, he could be attacking either their face or their sociality rights. So there are three types of faces that one can attack: the quality face, the relational face, and social identity face. So a face is, as Goffman puts it, is the value that one claims for himself or herself. So when you're attacking somebody's quality face, basically you're attacking his qualities, the values that he attached to his qualities. For instance, their smarts, their looks. And then the relational face basically relates to their self, to the self in relation to others. For instance, you're describing somebody to be a bad husband. The last one, which is the social identity phase, basically relates to you. It's not that they're not really not. For instance, when you consider somebody not to be not a good husband, but like a valuable member of a society, for instance, like a good player, for instance. So that's for the quality, for the faces that you can attack. And then there's the sociality right. You could either attack somebody's equity rights, which is them feeling that they're being treated fairly, that they're not imposed upon. So, for instance, when somebody feels that somebody's playing favorite, the boss is playing favorite, and by saying certain thing, that's them feeling that their rights to be treated fairly has been violated. And then there's the association rights, which is the need to belong in a certain social group. For instance, if you're ignoring somebody, saying hi to salam to everybody and just ignoring that particular person, then you are violating their association right, their need to be considered, their need to be part of whatever social activities they want to be in. So the other framework is Define ATL's. There are mainly four principles that govern the analysis. The first one, identities are contextualized. They don't just ensue in a vacuum. They're genre dependent, which is why I stressed that the genre of political debates, because in certain genres, some forms of impoliteness are obviously more acceptable. And then the second principle is that both identity construction involves both construction and co-construction. So for instance, I can say something that would help construct your identity, somebody else's identity, and then that person could also say something that would construct their identity. So it's not only you who's making your identity, who's contributing into the perception of your identity in the minds of others. And then number three, identities can be negotiated as well as opposed. So if you're speaking as if you're, somebody says the boss, for instance, that makes others to be the followers. And of course, those followers may oppose to that by saying something different. And also they can be negotiated. So we'll see an example of that in the data in a minute. Lastly, there is not a single identity for every individual, but rather there are a constellation of identities. So for instance, I'm a mother, I'm a researcher, and I'm a worker at Imam Muhammad bin Saud University. So these are different identities, but they're obviously, they make who I am. So for that reason, in the data, you can see different identities emerging from the data instead of having one or two. So instead of having one. So that's it for the frameworks. As for the data, the research followed a total of 11 debates. And by the way, Trump boycotted the seventh one because it was run by a network that he didn't really like so much. So 20 hours of debates. And the study sampled 5 YouTube videos, each having more than, at the time, each of them had more than 100,000 views. However, I checked them yesterday, and the video we're about to see now has 1.9 million views. So they're viral, and they've been. That's a point to see that whether or not we're, they had an effect on people. So in those videos, Trump was being politically incorrect, polite basically, towards a different target in each clip. The targets were Rosa O'Donnell, although Rosa O'Donnell was not in the debate. She was not a fellow candidate. Rand Paul, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, and Ted Cruz. The last four were participating in the same in the debates. So the video in which he talked about was O'Donnell. Let me just try to play the video.
Mr. Trump, one of the things people love about you is you speak your mind and you don't use a politician's filter. However, that is not without its downsides, in particular when it comes to women. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account—
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account—
Thank you.
For the record, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president? And how will you answer the charge from Hillary Clinton, who is likely to be the Democratic nominee, that you are part of the war on women?
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either. This country is in big trouble. We don't win anymore. We lose to China. We lose to Mexico, both in trade and at the border. We lose to everybody. And frankly, what I say, and oftentimes it's fun, it's kidding, we have a good time. What I say is what I say. And honestly, Megan, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that. But you know what? We need strength, we need energy, we need quickness, and we need brain in this country to turn it around. That I can tell you right now.
Okay, so if we are to discuss the context of the video, so that before we delve into the analysis, basically the moderator was trying, in the way she structured her question, she was trying to do two things. He was trying to depersonalize it, and also kind of corner Trump. You know, she quoted him, because what she did was, first she used a positive remark that, you know, people love about you. That thing that you do is what people love about you, and then she contextualized it by using quotes from the Insider Show back in 2006, and then she quoted his Twitter account, and also what he said on his reality show that ran for 16 seasons, The Apprentice. And then to further kind of distance herself from the whole situation, although she was definitely, which is why he said she wasn't nice to him, she named Hillary Clinton, not her, she's not the one saying that. Hillary Clinton was the person who pointed him out as part of the war on women. Okay, so on the text level, the micro level, like the very basic level, what impoliteness, the impolite utterances that he said, attacked the quality face of Rosie O'Donnell, because basically he said he insulted her by saying she's a fat pig. And that type of impoliteness is pretty conventionalized. You don't have to think about the context. Regardless of the context, you would always know that calling somebody a fat pig on national television is an insult. So, what identities can somebody get from such insults, from the use of such language? Well, obviously that he is politically incorrect, pseudo impolite, he is rude. That one thing you get for sure. Because, and of course there are those linguistic clues, discursive clues. He used opposition, basically. Political incorrectness was put in opposition to strength and efficiency when he said, this country's big problem is political correctness. So if you don't have if you're not politically correct like himself, you have no problem. So, and then he used also an identical chain of syntactic forms, strength, energy, quickness, and brain, to say, to also add to the effect that those, every adjective in this chain is in opposition to political correctness, and you're only getting that, this is the implication, you're only getting that, okay, if we're only getting these characters if we lose this political incorrectness. Also, he also implies that he got them all since he's already been proven to be almost consistently politically incorrect. And by doing so, Slavova said in 2019, by doing so, he actually negotiated his identity as a disrespectful man who's part of the war on women, into somebody who's rather politically incorrect, which is actually a more politically correct form, ironically. So, and then the other identity that he negotiated, that he proposed from that, is the identity of a strong leader, because he interrupted her. He showed dominance. He cut her off. She was flooding all these quotes at him, and then he just cut her off calmly, and then with very lack of mitigation, he showed no self-explanation nor an apology, because the question she asked was she was obviously trying to get him to self-explain himself or to apologize, but he did none of that. He actually admitted to his history, and that shows strength. You don't do that on national television unless you're very strong. So, and then the other identities, the identity of the outsider, a businessman. He's opposite to a career politician. You know, someone who's prone to corruption.
Dr. Shifa, sorry for interrupting you. We are, ran out of time because we need to have 10 minutes for the question and answer. Thank you.
Okay. Let me just open the tab. I guess. Okay, how did you equate political incorrectness with impoliteness? What is the impoliteness definition that you use? I use, can you hear me?
It's too, hardly you can hear you. But pardon me, we are run out of time. It's 12:05 now, and we need to start the Q&A session.
Yeah, I'm reading them.
Read them on behalf of you, if you don't mind. Thank you so
Go
much.
ahead. Go ahead. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. And let's start the question that we got from Dr. Khaled as well. How did you equate political incorrectness with the impoliteness? What is the impoliteness definition that you used?
Okay, well, I am using Culpeper's definition of impoliteness, which is it's a very long definition. I mean, it's around 10 to 12 lines, but basically, it is causing offense. It's using language to cause offense, whether willingly or unwillingly, consciously or subconsciously. You did use language to cause offense. So if that's what he's doing with language, then he is being impolite. Does that answer your question, Dr. Khalid?
Okay. Are there any other questions? Dr. Khalid, you need to ask another question, or the participants. We still have time. Any other questions? Okay, no more questions. So by that, we'd like to thank Dr. Shifa so much for this informative presentation. I myself, I really benefited much from it. And we will, inshallah, start our second presentation. It will be starting 12:15, inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Shifa. Thank you so much. Thank you, all the participants. See you within a minute, inshallah, 12:15. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's me back again to all of you. Thank you so much for staying with us. This is our third presentation for today. And I would like to welcome all of you in room 4 on behalf of the Applied Linguistics Research Lab. This is our first international symposium, and we'd like to just give very quickly some housekeeping. Please make sure that your cameras are off, mics mute. In case you have any questions, type your questions on the Q&A area to be able to handle them the last 10 minutes, inshallah. Now, please join me and welcome Dr. Najla Al-Ghamdi, Taif University, Saudi Arabia. Her presentation title is Saudi Dialects, a Potential Qani Dialect. Please welcome Dr. Najla. The stage is yours, Dr. Najla.
Thank you very much. Thanks for this welcoming. And I'm So happy to be with you in this conference. And my paper will be about Saudi dialect, or the title of my presentation is Saudi Dialect, a Potential Koine. The presentation will be as following, or the structure of the presentation will be as following. I'll start with the study, koinization, and then examples of koinization. And then I'll talk about mobility and immigration in Saudi Arabia in general. And then some pieces of evidence of leveling in Saudi dialects, then public perception data, the features analyzed, and then results, discussion, and finally the conclusion and future direction. So what is my study, or what is it about? The study aims to discern whether a koine has emerged among Saudi dialects. So it is I'm trying to explore if there is a koine Saudi here. It is an attempt to conceptualize the linguistic situation in Saudi Arabia, and the data was collected from media, particularly from television advertisement. Um, Now, what is koinization? Koinization is a linguistic phenomenon that may occur when mutually intelligible dialects come into contact. So, and this koinization involves different processes, such as mixing. And what we mean by mixing here is the existence of linguistic features originated from different dialects. And also, it may include or involve leveling, the reduction or elimination of marked features. And we have a very classical example of that, such as the elimination of dual in the classical Arabic. We don't use it anymore in our modern Arabic dialects. And in some cases, we don't use also Nun and Niswa. It is eliminated from lots of modern Arabic dialects. And then also we have simplification, the reduction of structural complexity, and then reallocation when survived features in dialect mix are refunctionalized to have social or stylistical or linguistic functions in the new emerged dialect. In some cases, these linguistic processes gradually leads to the occurrence of a koine. And you can read more about koine in Siegel 1985 and Treadgill 2004. So it's not necessary after having these different processes, we may come up with a new koine, but in some cases it happened. According to Caswell 2002, there are two scenarios for the emergence of a koine, both of which involve immigration or migration. So migration is a vital element of having a koine wherever in the world. The first scenario is the regional koine, where immigrants come from different places to settle in an existing community. And this is the case that I will talk about in this presentation. And the other scenario is the immigrant koine, where diverse newcomers live together in a new location. Um, Next, here are some examples of koinization in the world, and the most or the well-known study of koinization is Modern New Zealand English by Peter Drudgill. And also we have a koinization that, or a koine or koines that emerged in Odda and Tesdal in Norway by Caswell. Also, there is a very common and well-known koinization of Indian South African English, and in Amman as well, in Jordan by Alwer, and also in Oran in Algeria. And there are many other examples. I have just displayed here the well-known ones. Now, I'll talk about mobility and immigration in Saudi Arabia in general. In the 30s of the last century, the oil has been discovered. However, the country started to enjoy the economic boom in the late of 60s. So we can imagine the results of this um, economic boom. The nourishing in the oil industry was reflected on the society, where more and better jobs were provided, but in the big cities, and also transformation in the transportation was taking place, which eased the mobility and the migration in the country, and also the individual's income were raised. So since this immigration started and until now, I can say that there is a revolution on the linguistic level happened and still happening, which leads to an evolution in the spoken dialect in Saudi Arabia. Uh, and lots of people have noticed that lots of Saudis have noticed that. Here are some pieces of evidence of leveling in Saudi dialects, like in Al Isa 2009 in Jeddah. She found that affrication of kaf and ga or ka and ga among Najdi immigrants in Jeddah is leveled out. And also Al Ghamdi 2014 in Mecca, her results revealed that the diphthongs aw and I are eliminated by Ghamdi immigrants in Mecca. Al-Qahtani 2015, Intihamat Qahtan, also found that there is a leveling out of definite article M, such as instead of using the al-Qamar or al-Bayt, people they're using Qamar, Bayt, but there is a leveling out of this article. Al-Azraqi in 2016 in Abha, she found that affrication of ka is leveled out as well by immigrants who are coming from villages around the main city, which is Abha. Hussein in Medina also found that leveling out, there is a leveling out of affrication ja. People there started to use ja instead of ja. Al-Ruhaili in Al-Medina also found that the palatalized qj is leveled out by Bedouins. And Al-Udaini in 2019 in Dammam, she found also that people there, they are eliminating the ya sound in favor of ja sound, like, for example, Riyayil, so they now prefer to use Rajajil. Al-Buhnaya in 2019 in Al-Ahsa, also his results revealed that there is a leveling out of the raising vowel imala of the feminine ending. So these are really good examples of the leveling process in different Saudi dialects. So what is the public perception here? People here, on the part of lay persons, there is a general perception of the emerging of common dialect, and they even give it a name or give it a term, which is al-lahja al-bayda, which the literal translation of it is the white dialect. However, from a linguistic perspective, this dialect called a koine or supralocal dialect. So my questions here are, does this dialect really exist? And if it does, what are the characteristics of it? So in this study, I'm trying to explore that. I'm trying to find out this thing. So the data was collected from media, particularly from 26 television advertisement for large companies. And this kind of data is accessible. That's why I chose it. And it is a good reflection of what the public believe. So basically, these, or the copywriter of this advertisement, they will certainly use the language that all Saudi will accept, that all Saudi will understand. So I use it as a point of departure to try to conceptualize the linguistic trajectory in Saudi Arabia. So it is just an attempt. We are still need to work or to do further work to explore this dialect. The features that I analyze in this paper, I chose the diphthongs, I and au, and also the interdentals, tha and tha and dha, and their stops counterparts, ta, da, and da. And also, I checked for the affricate ja and the fricative ja, and also the affricated ka, like sha, cha, sorry, cha and sa, and also the palatalized ka, which is kaj or something like that. I'm trying to pronounce it correctly. Regarding the results of this study, I found that there are 80 tokens with interdentals. However, 77% of them were tha, tha, and dha, and 23% were the stops, ta, da, and da. Regarding the ja sound, I found the both variants, ja and ja. However, 67% of the ja and 33% of ja. If you look at the table below, you can see that none of these features were presented in the language of the advertisement, such as I and ow, sa and sa, sha and cha, and kuj as well. So I can say that the results interestingly show that advertisement reflect the real linguistic situation in Saudi. So both interdentals, tha, tha, and dha, and also stops, ta, da, and da, occurred in that language of the advertisements. And we can say uh, directly that the interdentals are the features of the most Saudi dialects, and the stops are the features of Hijazi dialect, the dialect spoken in Mecca, Jeddah, Medina, and in some cases in Taif as well. Also, both Africa Ja and fricative Ja are used. So I can say that the Hijazi feature is there, and the other feature, which is the Ja, is there, which is mainly used in Najd, eastern part, and also in the northern part, uh, while Ja is used in Hijaz and also in southern region of the country. The other localized features were totally abandoned, which are the I and ow. Basically, they are marked and they are minority. As far as I know, the I and ow occurred in some dialects spoken by Harbi people, and also they occur in the in the southern region of the country. But so that's why I consider them minority, and they are marked. Also, we have the sa and sa, sha and cha. They are marked and they are localized. And the last sound, which is kr, is extremely localized, and it is really hard to produce it. So non-native speaker will find it really difficult to pronounce it and produce it. Conclusion and future directions. The results in this study suggest that we have a Saudi Koine, but it is not a completed dialect. It is still in progress, as I suppose. In this Koine, more local and marked features were abandoned, as the results, of course, showed. And also, it looks that there is a linguistic repertoire, and people subconsciously choose from this repertoire. So if we go back to the results, we will find that in this supposed Koine, we can see some features coming from Hijaz, other features coming from Najd, and so on. These features could undergo reallocation. We don't know. We really need to check that. So they could they could undergo reallocation socially, stylistically, or maybe linguistically. Also, this koine may end up with structural variation, and this is something we can see it now to some extent, where we can find ja and ja, so the variation is there. We can find the interdentals and their counterparts, the stops, ta, da, and da, and so on. So we still need to do further research to carry out. It is a very big project, so I can say, or I can say, yeah, saying from this platform, it is a chance for me to ask for kind of collaboration between my colleagues, my friends who are working in sociolinguistics to carry out this big project and to find out what is the Saudi koine and to find out the characteristics of this dialect. Here are the references, and thank you for your listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nella. MashaAllah, I can say that you're on time. We still have 5 minutes, so we'll jump to the questions. It was really a very informative presentation. I myself, I'm sure that I will benefit from this as an instructor of sociolinguistics in my department. Let's jump to the questions here.
Sure.
We received a question from Dr. Lorian. The question is, if you have time, can you talk more about the colony in Amman? Jordan, what features have been mixed and what market features have been dropped?
In Jordan?
Yes, Jordan, Amman, yes.
All right. One of the classical feature there in the koine emerged there is the abandon, or they eliminated the ga sound in favor of the glottal stop, hamza or a. So now lots of Jordanian, they eliminate this feature, which is like, for example, qalbi, qamar. So they prefer now to use albi and amar. I hope I have answered the question. So this is one of the classical feature there.
Thank you for your answer. I think even when you say Amr, so you're taking me back to my country, Egypt. You used to
Yes,
say it.
this is true.
Yeah, thank you. The other question we received from Dr. Arwa, can we investigate colonization of the semantic level of Saudi Arabia?
Yes, of course. Although I didn't do that, I focused on the phonological or phonetical level. But of course, we can do that. We can do that semantically, syntactically, and so on.
Thank you. Move to another question from Dr. Abdullah. This is wonderful presentation. Really, I agree with you, all of us, and agree with that. It is
Thank
full
you.
of info. Is the researcher intending to introduce a glossary or small dictionary for this great job?
Well, this is in fact, this is a very good idea, but it needs a very, how can I say that? It needs hard work and alone, or me alone, I can't do that. We need, that's why I found it a chance in this platform to ask for this kind of collaboration between sociolinguists, especially my colleagues and my friends who are working in this area. So yeah, we can come up with a glossary. We can come up, I'm looking even for a map for dialects in Saudi Arabia. So yeah, hopefully we will do it in the future.
So promise, thank you. I think the academia will benefit from your project.
Thank you.
We receive another question from Dr. Roa. Is there any forms to fill out to obtain the certificate? It's not for you, this question, for the panel. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll get back to you. Any
Okay.
questions you'd like to type? Yeah, we're still receiving questions here. Yes, right. They are asking kindly for your email. If you don't mind, you can
Sure,
yeah.
But
Okay.
I don't know how to share that.
Just you
How?
type it on the chat box and they will be able to see it.
Okay.
I think we're still getting question from Dr. Lorena again. Can you give examples of vocabulary with the more market depth things? Yeah, now is yeah like the vowel bait in bait, and what vowel
Yes.
is replaced within the Kaini dialect?
All right. The diphthongs were replaced by monophthongs. So instead of saying bait, now they are saying bit. Or loan, they are saying loan. So no more diphthongs, and they are replaced by monophthongs.